at 8:15 on this Friday morning, and I'm delighted to say we're joined on the line by Eric Donovan. Morning to you, Eric.
Good morning. How are you, Adrian?
Flying, and thank you. Thanks a million for joining us. Announced this week as the Health and Wellbeing Ambassador for Bearing Point, who've long been a sponsor of you in and out of the ring now, it turns out as well. What we must ask, first of all, exactly is a Health and Wellbeing Ambassador?
Well, first of all, I'd just like to say I'm delighted to be appointed the Health and Wellbeing Brand Ambassador for Bearing Point. And I mean, to have a company the size of Bearing Point and with the strength of Bearing Point kind of in my corner, it definitely boosts the strength and power that I have in my corner, and I need that in this game. Professional boxing is a tough game, but we kind of linked up together at the beginning of 2020 with the first lockdown, and most of the Bearing Point, well, nearly all employees and staff were working from home and trying to get used to the new normal. And Bearing Point being a very they genuinely care about well-being and health, and they wanted to look after their staff and their employees from home. And Eric Conway, one of the head guys from the company, got in touch with me and asked if I'd be interested in doing some online workouts with the clients to kind of lift morale and keep, give them an outlet and provide some kind of healthy options for them while they're working from home. And so we kind of got stuck into that in the first lockdown, and we were doing two sessions a week, and they were a great success. And not only for the Irish firm, but then the European their European colleagues were joining in as well, and it was a great kind of virtual class that we kind of established, and as I said, it was a great success. And then during the year, I was doing a lot of community events, and Bearing Point became aware of the mental health work that I've been doing, and guest speaking and my online mental health workshops and seminars, and they really were attracted to that, and they wanted to be involved, and they realized that we shared a lot in common, a lot of the same principles and values. And when I got this fight on Sky Sports, Bearing Point rallied in behind me and got in behind some of the other long-term sponsors that I had as well, and they've added strength to my corner. And the Sky Sports fight obviously didn't go my way, unfortunately, but I think we did a good job in terms of like representing myself and my sponsors and put in a good performance. And at the end of 2020, Bearing Point asked if I would like to be involved in a more kind of a more ambassador role, to provide maybe some of my seminars to their staff, and some more sessions, online sessions, and maybe turn up at some of their CSR events as well. And I said I'd be absolutely delighted. So that's where we're at, and that was the announcement yesterday.
We might talk about that fight in just a moment, but in terms of that role that you're carrying out from now, and you've also spoken to a lot of people, and you've been on the show during the first couple of lockdowns over the last 10 months or so. Have you found a difference in how the public are dealing with lockdowns in terms of how in tune they are with their own mental health as the lockdowns have come and gone and we've gone in and out of them?
Yeah, it's a difficult time for a lot of people, Owen, and I think Bearing Point are very aware of that as well. It's like people trying to get used to, living in their house, but also working in their house, doing everything from the same room. Some people may not even have the luxury of a garden. Some people could be in apartment blocks or whatever. And Bearing Point are always trying to, kind of improve people's lives, improve people's working lives. And not only through the boxercise and fitness that I do, but they also have other options like Zumba and yoga, and they even have online concerts and bingo. And, they're always trying to encourage the employees and the colleagues to come together to try and enjoy life in a virtual kind of sense, and kind of keep an interest, and lift morale. But I notice a big change across society. Definitely, mental health is a huge issue at the moment, I take phone calls a lot, you know, nearly every week. I take phone calls with people who, you know, be mutual friend of a mutual friend, or just somebody just got my number and they're just asking for a bit of assistance for a son, for a daughter, for, you know, for a cousin and relative, whatever it is. And you know, they might just ask me for a bit of advice, or would I speak to one of their, you know, to one of their family members. And I always offer my services. I always do. And you know, I don't claim to be any sort of guru or anything like that, but I just listen. I just listen and gives, you know, offer people some compassion and empathy, and I try and point them in the right direction. Then I try and say, look, well, this is what I did, you know, when I was struggling, or maybe, you know, this is what you could do. You know, it might work for you, it might not, but you know, if you need another chat, I'm here later on or tomorrow or whatever. And you know what, I do that because that was done for me when I needed support and help. And it's good. It's good. We make a livelihood out of what we get. We make a life out of what we give.
That's really interesting to hear you talk about that, Eric. Like, I think your outlook and the way you've been, I think maybe over the last 12 months, and I know we've spoken to you a few times, and anybody who's been following you online will be very familiar with it as well. I think it's the reason that a brand like that will come to work with you, I'm sure. Can I just ask you, in terms of the people that are been in contact with you, and like it was really interesting to hear you say that you're just listening, and I think that maybe if we've taken anything from the last 12 months, that's a really important thing. But then you mentioned about you might try and give them a bit of advice or guidance. Does that tend to be very much tailored to the person you're speaking to, or do you find that there's a couple of things that, even in terms of our own audience this morning, that you can bits of wisdom that you can impart?
Yeah, I mean, listening is a skill in itself. And I remember the first time when I started doing some counselling sessions for on my own journey. And there was something really special about that. Just having that, it was very liberating. Just having somebody, you know, give you this empathy and compassion and just hear you, really, really hear you and listen. And you're not looking for answers at that time. You're just looking to get a lot of things off your chest or out of your head. And somebody is sitting down and actually just listening to you. And I often say to kids when I go to schools as well, like, to your friends or whatever, you know, sometimes if a friend of yours shares something that's very maybe heavy or personal or whatever, you don't have to have the answers. You just have to say to your friend, I hear you, I'm in your corner, and I'm with you. You know, I don't know what to do on this, with this news, with this information, but just know this, that I'm still your friend, and you know, I'm in your corner and I'm with you. And because I say that to some people, because we get a little bit, as a society, when people talk about depression or loneliness or anxiety and stuff like that, we can get a little bit, what would you say, a little bit confused in how to deal with that stuff. And we might try to change the subject really quickly, or we might try to, you know, just kind of avoid those situations and avoid those scenarios. But the people, I do say it's a privilege. I think it's a privilege that people would ring me up and they don't even know me and just want to have a talk to me. And they might say, Eric, I've heard you on Off the Ball. I've heard you on, you know, various news channels or programs, social media channels, whatever. And, you know, you shared my story. You're telling my story and stuff like that. And because it's not unusual. My story is not an unusual story. It's quite common, you know, and there's a lot of people out there struggling at the moment, and a lot of people have lost jobs, and a lot of people are still in jobs, but they're in isolated environments, and they need connection. That's all it is. They need connection and they need direction. And like, as I said, I've made so many mistakes in the past, so I don't claim to have all the answers, but I think sometimes when you can listen to someone, that's more than enough.
Yeah, there's a power in you empowering people themselves to do that, and I hope that people got something from that this morning. It's been an unbelievable sort of week or 10 days for you as well, isn't it? It's been been a mad time when maybe you might have been expecting to be a bit quiet. You've been confirmed, if people aren't aware, I'm sure most are, the mandatory challenger for the Super Feather EU title and to take on Atom Lemuse. How did they decide that's the route they're going? How did that all come about?
Well, I stepped up to fight Selfa Barrett at super featherweight, and then after that I wasn't interested. I was planning on going back to featherweight, but I wasn't interested in going back to featherweight too quickly, because you kind of only make the featherweight kind of category when you have a championship fight. So I had a fight just before Christmas in Belgium, and that was kind of a super featherweight as well. So my last 2 fights were at super featherweight, which is about 4 pounds heavier than featherweight, which was my planned destination. And sure enough, on the last day of 2020, the Boxing Union of Ireland get in touch with me and say, Eric, we're delighted to inform you that you are now the official mandatory challenger for the super featherweight EU title. And I was like, oh, well, I was heading back to featherweight, but they probably ranked me as super featherweight because my last 2 fights were there. Now, I obviously didn't say that to the BOI. I was just thinking this in my head, but I was like, hold on, maybe I don't need to go back right now. This is like, let's have a look at this guy. And I went, and I'd never heard of him before. He's a Maltese boxer, 17 wins and 1 defeat. And he did, I think he had most of his earlier part of his career in Australia. And he beat the Italian in Italy to win that belt. And I was just like, something, like, I'm in a position now, mandatory challenger. I've never been the mandatory challenger for anything in my life, and that means I'm, my next fight is, technically going to be for the European title, whether it's against him. Well, he has to defend it against me, and if he doesn't defend, he has to vacate. So I'm like, that's my next shot. It's a great position to be in. The current climate is awful, though, you know what I mean, with everything up in the air, and we just do not know exactly when or where, but it's a very good position to be in, and I think I'll stick around to go for that, and then maybe possibly look at going back to feather afterwards. We'll see.
Does that uncertainty mean that, like, you can't even, like, do your camps get in touch now, or, like, with the uncertainty, does that mean that, like, because the obvious questions are that people have, the when, the where, is it Sky, is it RTE? I'm assuming by the sounds of things you've no answers to any of those things.
No, not really. I was speaking to Mark last night. So Mark's my manager, and he was just saying that, like, he's in touch with the EBU at the moment, and so the EBU are going to link up my team, my manager, and my Lamuse's team. So they'll actually try and come to some sort of an agreement. I can't see it being in Ireland at the moment. I can't see the European title fight being in Ireland, because to have a fight like that in Ireland, you would definitely need to be putting bums on seats, and we just can't do that at the moment. So it could play out somewhere in Europe behind closed doors, or it could play out in, what would be ideal would be great if it was on maybe a matchroom card or something, undercard of that or something like that, because Eddie did say he'd have me back on as well, so I'm going to hold him to that, but I tell you what would be amazing. Was that
like, what's your sense of that, Eric? Like, because I think anybody watching that night had a feeling that was the right thing to do at that time, but it can be like, we've all had a few drinks and we've said things that
yeah, well, I have it in black and white, so I tell you, I'll be holding him to it. No, I know. I think he's an honor.
Did you chase him up for an email, or what was? Did you...
Nah, he sent me a message when I got back home, and he's been in touch, like, you know what I mean. And he's been in touch since I got home, and he just said, like, hats off to Eric. You added to the whole show, and it was great to work with you and Mark, and look forward to working with you in the future. We'll definitely have you back. And I was like, that's fantastic. And but an ideal scenario would be to go away and win that European title, and come back later on, and maybe even the second half of the year, and can you imagine fans being allowed to come back and having a big homecoming defence or something like that, with the first defence of that title? It's a great position to be in. I'm excited. I'm really, really excited about it all, and even more so having Bearing Point in my corner, because that adds a lot of strength to it as well.
It's interesting when you listen to Eddie Hearn speak after that defeat last summer. He rarely picks up on somebody who's after losing a fight and gives them so much credit. He usually focuses just on the winner, I think. That wasn't the case for you. What was it about the build-up to that camp, the relationship that you built up with him at that point, that I guess he thought so much of you so quickly?
Yeah, it was kind of weird, and I often say this to people, like everybody was going around fight camp saying, Eric Donovan, what a talker. They were kind of repeating what Eddie Hearn was saying, and I was like, I'm out here to box, to become the top 15 in the world, and people are talking about what a talker Eric Donovan is. I'm like, I really wish they would say what a boxer he is, but honestly, that was my first time to get a taste of the big time, really, in professional boxing. And the 12 fights I had before that was the hard grafting, almost like apprenticeship, just selling tickets, traveling around, the donkey work, really. But like, it has to be done. And that time with the fight camp, even though it was in the middle of a pandemic in Eddie Hearn's backyard, which is not your typical backyard, it was quite spectacular. And just to have the whole luxury of not having to sell tickets, everything done for you, your flights, your hotel, everything arranged, and the professionalism, and it was incredible. So I really enjoyed that. I took to that like a duck to water. Like, that was where I kind of felt like, yeah, I deserve this. I'm a professional athlete. I've been working so hard for so long. This is, we're going in the right direction, and they're running a really good ship over there. It's amazing. And when he said to me he'll have me back, I genuinely believe he will.
Yeah, it did feel like that on the night as well. Go on, sorry.
AJ, just on that point of everybody kind of complimenting you on being a good talker, like, I guess so many boxers have to work really hard at that. Obviously, everybody's working unbelievably hard at their craft of the sports person that they are, but some people need to be a little bit contrived in what they're saying, or they need to be OGT a little bit. It must be a little bit of comfort knowing that actually my natural personality is working. It's actually selling myself very, very well. I don't need to be fake. I don't need to not be the person that I already am.
Yeah, and that all comes with, confidence, self-esteem. I would have, as a young kid, when I was out there, when I was dealing with like my own issues and stuff like that, there was times where I used to describe myself as a huge, massive ego, low self-esteem, but it's kind of like square peg in a round hole. But no, my journey through life has allowed me to kind of accept who I am, to be myself truly and fully, and whether people like that or not is really none of my business, because I have to be just true to myself. And if people do like it, then that's great, and if they don't, well, there's not much I can do about it. I can't change for everybody, and growing up years ago, that's the kind of person I was whoever people wanted me to be. I was looking for direction off other people, trying to find out how to fit in, what kind of a person to be, how do I looking for acknowledgement and acceptance. But like, the only acceptance I need is the acceptance from myself, to be happy in my own skin. And the more I've grown into that, the more people have responded to that in a very positive and encouraging way. And I was like, why didn't I do this long ago? It's kind of like, but look, you can't put an old head on young shoulders. It's your journey through life. But no, on that, the simple answer is, just be happy in your own skin, be you, be the best you can be, and people like that. People respond to that because there's no BS and there's no ego and bravado or whatever. Even though I'm a professional boxer, some people look at me and they want me to kind of like, come on, call me mother names, you know what I mean? Come on, face to face, it's, but I'm not. It's not. I'm just straight up, and what you see is what you get.
On the fighting bit, then, are you working on special parts of your craft at the moment? Has there been a particular focus going into this year where you're like, I need to get better at this part of my game?
Yeah, I think I needed a bit more, like coming off the Self-Bar fight. There's a couple of things. Number one is the strength. I needed to really focus on my strength because I wasn't on a proper strength program. I was doing some kind of strength circuits and that, but that's only kind of conditioning work. It's not proper strength. You need to have full isolated strength training sessions with a strength and conditioning coach. So I brought in Seamus Power, who is a strength and conditioning coach from Wexford. He's brilliant, and we've been making great progress there. I also brought in a head coach with professional experience, which is Packy Collins, And so Packy's added to the team, and Kenneth Egan is obviously still there as well. So I feel like the next time I'm in a position like that I will be prepared to a much higher level than previously, and hopefully this time I'll be able to see over the, get over the line and see out the fight with a victory.
Does that maturity that you spoke about earlier on, does that also come with like more openness to changing your own approach or your style, or like whereas a younger fighter you might have been more bullheaded that like this is my route and this is my path and this is the type of boxer I am and I ain't changing it, that maybe you're a bit more open to that now?
Oh yeah, definitely open to it, Adrian. It's like even going back to last year, I was getting very frustrated. The end of 2019, I was getting, the early stages of 2020, I was getting very frustrated with my career. I didn't feel like I was going anywhere. I was running to stand still, and I didn't really see the breaks that I hoped to see. And I made a change. I had to change my managerial kind of. I had to change managers really. I was managed by Leonard Gunning from Boxing Ireland Promotions, and they do a great job, and I can't thank them enough for the start that they've given me. But I just felt like I needed somebody to take me to that next level, and I didn't have the luxury of having 10 years ahead of me. I had to be ruthless, I had to be selfish, and it's not kind of traits that I like. But when you're a professional athlete, professional sports person, you have to make tough decisions. It's not personal. It's just tough decisions that have to be made. And if I don't make them, then I'm going to end up with regrets. And that's why I came back boxing in the first place, because I had some regrets and I wanted to iron them out. And I said, if I don't make this decision, I'm going to still end up with regrets. The one thing I came back to change. So I had to change managers, and thankfully, we hit the ground running with Mark. Our first fight was on Sky Sports, and Mark has great contacts. He's a brilliant manager, and I love working with him. And now I've brought in a head coach in Packy. Packy's over 20 years of professional boxing. I'm learning loads under his tutelage now, and strength and conditioning coach as well. But these are all, like, I have the blinkers on. I have to make decisions that are based on my career, that are based on getting me to the point that where I want to get to. And that when I do hang up the gloves, which I hope is not anytime soon, but when I do hang them up, I want to be able to say, yes, I'm very content and happy with what I do.
Yeah. Well, you're headed in the right direction. And I note that if it happens to be Lemieux, that his one loss was against a 5'8" southpaw named Ireland. I think like the omens are all there.
That's right, yeah. Noticed that, yeah. So, please God, the stars will align for me and get me over the line the next time. And it's always been a dream of mine to become a European champion. And, I know I'm probably coming across quite reserved, but I am absolutely buzzing for this. Like, this was like the last day. Can you imagine the final day on 2020? You're getting this news. Like, 2020 was a horrible year. Me and Laura were supposed to get married. It promised so much, and just, we got through it. We all got through it, and sometimes it feels like we're not even through it, because 2021 isn't really starting off much better. But I do believe our best days are ahead of us, and I do believe that we will get out the other side of this. But what news to get on the final year of 2020. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's been a great week or 10 days for you, Eric. Always a pleasure to catch up with you. Always great insight and an interesting person to speak with, and very honest as well, and forthright. So keep that up and keep up the good stuff, and we'll chat to you again soon.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Thanks, man. Eric Donovan on the line there, just announced as a health and wellbeing ambassador for Bearing Point, and you can check out Eric's social channels for much more on that. And as he said himself, there's plenty of good stuff going on up there in terms of Zoom sessions and other stuff as well. So keep an eye out for all of that.